Hey everybody, it is on screen, off screen. I am so glad that we're here again this week. Let's start off with your first topic, Josh.
Should be a pretty quick one. Stuff we talked about last week. I'm just gonna finish up my final thoughts on the Penguin show.
All right, I am super curious what you think about the end.
I hated it, and not
Okay,
for whatever reason you think I would hate it for.
all right. Well, tell me why you hated it.
I hated it because it felt lucky again. I hated it because
Okay,
it felt unsatisfying. And the biggest reason I hated it was it felt like Book of Boba Fett. Meaning they're gonna lean into the Batman storyline or into the Penguin storyline for the Batman 2 to actually make sense.
that's interesting point of view. I could definitely see that being the case.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that at all.
That's what my first thought was when everything was actually fully settled. And I didn't even really like the Batman, right? Like it had some good stuff in it. And I know there's going to be a second one, and I sure hope that they learn from the first one and apply it to the second one. But I was just like, dang, I really hope that they're not just gonna build off of this. And instead of being something that, like, hey, it's kind of nice to know if you know, to becoming something that's like, you need to know this.
I hope not either. But what storyline do you think they would use where they have to know it?
Well, the penguin.
I mean, you could. I mean, people know who the Penguin is. He's in the first movie. You don't have to.
Yes, but who
He
is he
he
in the
he is
first
the
movie?
big kind of crony in the first one.
Okay. So you're gonna take this kind of a crony and for no explanation whatsoever, he's now the big drug
He's
lord.
now the big mom
He's
boss.
now the big mob boss. He's now your main antagonist or a main antagonist, depending on how you do the Batman thing, right? Like, there is a
Mm.
universe where they say, hey, if you had seen the Penguin, this would make a little bit more sense. But if they also start playing on the um, Christine Miliotti's storyline of it, then it becomes a no,
You have
you
to watch the
have
show.
to watch the Penguin before you can watch the Batman too.
That's a fair point,
And
and you can get rid of the Penguin problems pretty easy. I think you could have Alfred say, "There's been major shifts in the crime boss family, and it looks like our friend, what's his name? What is his actual name? Penguin. Anyway, the Penguin has taken over large swaths of Gotham's underworld, something like that.
you don't need to even do it. Just say that, like, time has passed, right? Things change during time. So as long as you
Yeah,
establish it's not immediately following the first one, you establish
I would
time
like
has
to.
passed, then people can fill in. Like, okay, so this guy went from a mid-level mob boss to the main guy. No big deal, right? But like I said, if you really start to like lean on it and you start, if like I said, if Christine Milioti is in the Batman 2 at all, it's gonna create more questions than it's gonna.
I hope she's not. I hope they don't do
I
that.
hope she is.
Really,
She was so much better than the Penguin, right? So
she's fantastic, but I still hope. I hope they keep it more separate.
I I hope that they're separate for the same fact of I think it's stupid to say you have to watch a different thing to make sense of your other thing when you're
Yeah,
not talking about like direct sequels
it's
or
not a
prequels.
second movie or whatever.
Yeah, when you're saying, "Hey, go watch this other show for this third season to make sense," Mandalorian, or you're saying, "Hey, we're doing our movies, but go watch this show so that this other thing makes sense, Marvel," and um, all that kind of stuff. Like, I hate that. That is terrible. Like,
That's bad writing.
to take it to extremes, it's like, hey, we're too lazy to. What if Marvel said, hey, we're not going to tell this story all the way through. So, what you need to do to make the next Spider Man movie make sense is go out and buy and read Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man number 97, 98, 99, and that'll fill you into where we're going to pick up over here.
I think it's even more ridiculous than that. It's like, so to understand it completely, you actually need to read Amazing Spider-Man number 99, Doctor Strange number 104, 5, and 6. And also we have an Iron Man comic that we reference that we wrote like a few years ago. It's Iron Man number 64. Get all that and then maybe you might understand our story.
Yeah. So that's just the thing. That's why I really really hated it, right? Like the
Yeah, that's fair.
Penguin
That's fair.
being one of my more favorite Batman villains for a longer period of time than I've appreciated any of the other Batman villains. Um, so like the Joker's the highest of heights, but
Yeah.
like the Penguin was like my first favorite Batman villain.
Oh, cool.
And so this is like a complete betrayal of his character, but I actually don't view that as a bad thing because the show was still really interesting and dynamic. I just think that that sucks for the Penguin as a character.
I agree with that.
It's just like if I had my choice, right? And I was trying to build the next Batman villain and I need my insert drug boss person here, I would rather have Kristen Miliotti's character because she's more interesting,
Fair enough.
right?
Fair enough.
Like our writer friend Brandon, he talks about how there's I think 5 different ways to beat a villain or a thing, and like you need at least 2 of them, right? You can have luck and skill, or you can have luck and strength, or whatever the combination is. But like the Penguin is just lucky all the way through.
You didn't
He's
think
not a
at least some level of skill with the way he trapped Kristen at the very end of the show? Because I thought there was some kind of planning to that piece. Like he
There
knew where she was
was,
gonna be.
but it was
He
already established. It wasn't like, and like she was coming to him
but he also knew she was going to come.
because she put it out that like, it's not like he set it
Yeah,
up for her to come to him.
but then he used
It's
it
he took
in a
advantage of
particular
it.
way.
It's like he's a conniving little rat. He's not a s- strategist like he is in the comics and other Batman
Okay,
media, right? Like
okay. He's more of an
traditionally,
opportunist.
right? Traditionally, he's this very strategic thinker, right?
Yeah,
And
he's
like
the big boss
traditionally,
CEO mob
he's
boss guy.
one of the first villains to beat Batman and was the first villain in the comics to not get beaten by Batman in his first showing,
Yeah,
right? So he's this very strategic tactician, um, very, very intelligent person. There's even a comic where Batman admits to Alfred that his biggest fear is that the Penguin is smarter than him.
yeah. He literally is supposed to be the dark version of Batman on the rich side of his personality.
Yeah. So it's like, is that the character that was shown in the show called The Penguin?
Absolutely not.
No, he was this conniving little rat guy, which is fine, right? Like I was honestly, the show was so good, I was able to say, I don't really care.
Okay,
This is still so good. But again, I think it's supported by those extra characters
that helps massively,
by a ton, right? It's
massively.
not it you know. So yeah, those are my big concerns. That's why I hated it. Is I finished it, I was disappointed. I thought it was flat and unsatisfying at the end
What made it unsatisfying to you? Because I didn't feel that way. I
because
get what
it
you're saying.
felt like it was a cop out.
Okay,
I
okay.
feel like he used a cop out rather than to deal with this confrontation that has been building the entire time. Because you're basically saying, "Okay, Christian Miliotti's character, Falcone, last surviving member, I'm just gonna put you back where you were at the beginning of the show, in prison."
Interesting. I liked that he blamed everything on her, that he swayed some political factions to actually make that happen, lured her into the correct spot, timed everything so the cops would show up and that she would be the one who was taken, and literally just put her back in her worst nightmare in hell. She would rather die than go back to that place, and he takes her back to that place. And I think the aspect of future character development because of that, because of this person who I finally gave up on all this crap, sends me back to hell. And what will I do for revenge to rectify what has been done to me? Kind of a thing. Like she's already kind of played out that story, but it's a whole different level of that exact same story where she gets taken advantage of and put back into that hellish place when it's not her fault and she just wanted out. I I thought that was really
But
cool.
it doesn't say she goes back there, right?
Yeah,
We know
she's no
she
she
gets blamed, but that doesn't mean she goes to Arkham.
I'm pretty sure the officer who's picking her up says, "Let's go back to Arkham" or something like that. I
Nope.
thought so.
Nope.
Oh, hmm. I'm gonna rewatch that because I really thought that was the case.
Nope. She does get arrested and she does get blamed, but again, it's not like some strategic planning. It's opportunist from both the Penguin side and the city councilor side, because the city councilors knows that the Penguin is lying,
Yeah,
but
and
says,
just wants the
"This is
political
my
crowd.
opportunity
Uh,
to just get through this," right? Uh, which is fair, right? I'm not mad about it on the
yeah,
politician side because that's a good angle to play for a politician. It's just I wish that there was a little bit more dynamic pieces to your actual main title character, you know? So I
fair
just
enough.
felt like it was unsatisfying. I felt like it was like, okay, we're gonna kick the can down the road. Maybe we'll get a season two. Maybe we'll do the we'll talk about it in the Batman 2. Uh, right? Like, I didn't care about any of the other big surprises, right? I thought it was a good choice for his character to kill the stutterer.
You did?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I loved that. At first I was like, "Ah, I don't know, but I loved it.
No, that is the transition of him becoming going from bad guy to villain, right?
That's what I thought
It
too.
is him saying, "This is my last weakness because my mom just died.
And what did you
I'm
think
gonna
about the
take care of
whole
it myself."
hiring a stripper to dress like his mom thing? That was a strange choice to me,
Yes.
but worked with
Yes.
his psychos.
Yeah, as a skeeving, conniving rat man, not as the penguin. Sure. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's why I really, really hated it. Like I said, my biggest concern was I really hope that the Batman doesn't lean too much on this storyline, especially since, like, if you ask me, the Penguin is a far better storyline than the Batman part one.
I
Batman
agree.
one,
I agree.
far better.
I
Not
agree.
even close.
Um, so it just doesn't seem to be fair to judge this show based on the fact that they might screw up another movie.
But that's the whole point, is it's not a satisfying ending. So they're gonna continue it somewhere,
Okay.
right? Like I feel like that is fair when they themselves are trying to set it up to address it later.
Hmm.
It's, if they decide, hey, it's just gonna be Penguin season 2, I'd be like, great. I'm excited for it. I really hope that they learn from season 1. I hope they make the Penguin just a little bit more Penguin-esque. Um, that would be great. And I think the actors all did a really great job. But
Good.
when you make it feel like that's there's not going to be a season 2, then where are you going to address it? Oh, you're going to address it in your movies.
I don't even.
That's
For me,
concerning to
that's
me.
why it was satisfying because I didn't feel like I needed anything addressed. Like if there was nothing else that they did in this universe, I would be completely fine. Um, Christine Miliani's character, I thought was back in Arkham. I'll double check that, but that character's been taken care of. Both crime families are shut down. The Penguin is now the crime lord, crime emperor, whatever you want to call it. And Victor is dead, and that solidifies the Penguin's change from, I would say, like a somewhat gray character to being a full villain.
I don't feel like Kristen Miliotti's character story has been told.
Really?
I really don't. Like I
Okay.
said, it very much feels like they're kicking the can down the road with her.
I really feel like it's open for them to be able to do more, but they do have a satisfying arc within this show that I would be fine if it was completely done.
I feel satisfied in her arc. I don't feel satisfied in what the Penguin did with her at the end, if that makes any
Okay.
sense.
So the
Right? Like
ending makes it so it
her
feels like there's not a
story,
conclusion.
right? If you cut out all the Penguin stuff and you tell her story, right?
Yeah.
She gets out of prison.
Hmm.
She tries to rebuild with her family. She gets shut down again. She has mental health issues. She decides to kill her family. What happened to the niece? We still don't know. Um, right? Like her story is for this section of her life has been told, and I
Yeah.
feel satisfied in that. But the fact that she just came out of Arkham to start the series, and even if it is returning to Arkham, I think it's safe to assume that that's where she's going in the Batman universe. Um, you're just setting her back to where she started, right? That's not a scary thing. That's not like a oh no situation
But
in
isn't
my
that
perspective.
scaring for the character? Because we followed this character and we saw
No,
what Arkham was to her and how hellish it was. That's
no,
literally like the worst thing that could happen to her.
no, not at this point because she's also changed.
Yeah, but that still doesn't change the fact that this place is hell.
Yes and no. So, like, why was this held for her? Well, because she was wrongfully convicted. She was an innocent in this situation, and because she was being experimented on by the doctors, right?
Yeah,
Doctors aren't a factor anymore. She's not innocent anymore, and she's not scared anymore.
that's true. She did get a bit of a backbone while she was in the institution.
And when she got out, right? Like,
Yeah,
for her character arc, right? Like, she killed her own family.
yeah,
She's not afraid of anything after that point, right? She's willing to throw her chips on the table. She's willing to go all in. She's even willing to give up the money and the crime boss fame and the name just to get out of there. All she wants to do
and
is
be
kill the
free.
penguin and go,
Yeah.
right?
And at the
Like they're
end, she doesn't
setting
even
it
really
up
care
like
about that
she's
anymore.
going
She just
all
wants to
in.
get out.
She just wants to kill the penguin, get out, and then she's like, "I got played. I'm way out of my league. I just want to get out of here. I just want to leave," right? That's what she's pleading. But like even if that character does go back into Arkham, I feel like you're not putting her in a place where she's scared or that's torture for her anymore. You're basically
Hmm.
giving her assets and friends to build around because that's kind of how Batman works.
Yeah, so she could actually become like a mob boss, crime boss of some sort within Arkham and the connections that are made there.
Yeah,
Would
or
would
just
that
a
be an
villain in
interesting
general.
story to you?
Yeah,
Something of that nature? Okay.
if the Penguin season 2 was following the Penguin through his transition from being just a lucky guy to an actually intelligent, strategic mob boss guy, and at the same time you're following uh, Christine Miliotti's character and her choice
So
of
yeah,
madness and her villain arc and her escape attempt, because that's what it would basically have to be at this time because she's not going to get proven innocent after attacking another inmate, which is kind of crazy. But um, like that could be interesting. The question is, how are they going to do it if they do it?
if they do
I
it.
don't know. And
Interesting.
I, it I just feel like the ending is unsettled and just a little bit flat. I was just expecting maybe just a little bit more from it. I don't know what that is. I'm not saying I hated the ending of the Penguin because of my concerns. I'm saying it's concerning to me
Fair enough.
with
Fair enough.
how they ended it. Um,
So, having watched the whole show, what's your score? Where are you at?
8 out of 10.
Okay, okay, still very high.
Yeah, because like I said, Christina Miliotti's plot, her storyline is still
It's
so good.
amazing.
Even though like the Penguin, right? It's so good that I don't care that they butchered the Penguin plot. I don't care that they even butchered the Penguin as a character as a whole, right?
Because
Making
it's
him
so
this
good.
rat kid instead of intelligent.
Rich, intelligent,
Yeah.
controlling kind of guy. Cool. That's still a
Yeah.
good score. That's a good score.
Yeah. Like
I
I like the choice with him and his brothers. I like
Me
the
too.
choice of making them be poor. I think that that's a good choice too, rather than the rich upbringing that the penguin traditionally has. I just
Interesting.
I prefer the penguin to have taken that to become smarter and more intelligent, right? Like if I were a writer of the show and I was in complete control, I would write it as the same kind of upbringing up until the brothers die.
Okay.
And then the penguin choosing to try and provide the right way, right? I'm going to go to school. I'm going to take honors classes. I'm going to do all of these things and then have it be, what is that show I hate called? Drug Boss,
Oh, Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad, right? Have him not be able to afford college because of his life, right? Because of who his mom is in society, and have that kind of make him start choosing the drug boss life because it's easier, cheaper, and doable, whereas college is something that he lost out on.
You could even have him actually go to college, but he's struggling to pay, and then he gets into drug dealing at college, realizes how lucrative it is, and decides to abandon the life of going to school and becoming a doctor or whatever it is, very respectable profession, and just
Yeah,
decides to sell drugs because he's making thousands of dollars a month or
yeah,
a day or whatever,
yeah,
a week.
absolutely. And like from there, he starts to, okay, so now he's the driver for the family. Okay, now he's starting to take a little bit more chances. He's starting to get noticed, right?
Oh,
Like
cool.
from there, you start to build this like he's really smart kind of person who's taking these very calculated risks rather than this guy sold out his own uh client to her dad to get noticed. That's kind of a different plot, and I think it would make right. You wouldn't really have to change anything else in the show.
It would be a
Uh,
very small but significant change.
it would be a very small but significant change where you make those, you have him take those chances, and it makes it feel a little bit more calculated, a little bit more on purpose, and a little less reactive and emotional, and you know, a rat from drowning rather than, or rather not a rat than that's drowning. You know, but I don't know.
That's cool.
Like I said, it's totally fine the way it is. I really wish the ending just had a little bit more of to it.
Fair enough, man. I honestly, I loved the show. I just did. I liked the ending. The ending was satisfying to me. I do think there's a good point to be made with what you're saying about them possibly making you watch the show to watch Batman 2 or whatever it is. And I hope they don't do that, but I love the show. I don't I genuinely don't have problems with it. I love the show. I don't have
So
anything
what would you
significant,
give it
any
on a scale
significant.
of 1 to 10?
Right below an 8, or right below a 9, right below a 9, like 8.8, 8.9. Like I really think it's great.
I agree. I think it is great. It's got some room to grow, and its weak point is the title character, but it's still an 8 out of a 10 show. That's what
The
I
weak,
wanna communicate. I
the
would
weak
still
point,
give it an 8 out of 10.
the weak point is the main character. You're right. It is Penguin, but I think in other shows where the other characters weren't so strong, Penguin would still be a very good character in a typical show.
I
Where
think if you take
in other
away the
shows you don't
strength
have
of the
the
other
side
characters, it would
characters that are
not be a good show.
fantastic. I agree with that, but I don't think Penguin would be a bad character.
He would.
Interesting. I don't think
He
that.
would. Can you name any other show, movie, or anything that you would call great where your main character is lucky and always feels like a rat trying to stop itself from drowning?
Better Call Saul is a little bit that way, but that's the only one I can think of.
Okay, I don't know very much about Better Call Saul. I know it's the lawyer follow-up to Breaking Bad.
Yeah,
Um, I've
he's
seen
a
clips and
conniving
it doesn't
character.
feel like a rat from drowning. He feels like a very
There's
intelligent, calculated risk kind of character.
He is that, but there are times in the show where he does feel a little bit like Rat from Drowning. But it's
Okay,
times.
at
It's
times,
not whole shows. It's at times.
okay? I'm talking the whole show
Yeah, I can't think of anything else now.
because it's not a good story. It's not. If you just had the Penguin storyline, you'd be like, wow, that's an interesting background that they gave the Penguin. It's too bad the older Penguin sucks and this show sucks.
Hmm,
I truly, truly believe that. There's just, it is
interesting.
so well held out by those exceptional side characters. And if you strip that away, right, what do you have? You have this guy who's your title character who does nothing but lie and cheat and to try and talk his way out of stuff and fail into opportunity
Over and over and over again.
over and over again. You'd be like, this is not relatable. There's no, like, this is just dumb, right?
But yeah, the side characters that make it great. That's her. That's
You
her.
have the side characters that make it great, that make it okay to have your main character be a little bit more mediocre.
And with that, we'll move on to the next topic because I agree with what you're saying. Um, Actually, that's a good point. Let me go through my first topic. We've got The Founder. Have you ever seen this movie?
This is the one about McDonald's.
Yeah,
I've seen clips from it. I have meant to watch it. I have not watched it yet.
I was surprised by this movie. I actually really liked it, and I didn't know the story really at all. Um, Basically, summary: this guy who is he sells machines that make shakes. He gets an order for 6 machines and calls because he thinks it's an absolute mistake because he's kind of failing in his business. He's not doing very well, and they're like, "Yeah, 6 is probably wrong. We actually need 8." So he goes down there. He's like, what the heck? Why would somebody need 8 of these? What's going on? And he sees the first McDonald's, and there's this giant line of people. And he goes up to the counter, and they're like, that'll be 15 cents for the burger. He gets his burger and fries, and is like, what is this? Don't you need to cook the food? What are you doing? And he literally just grabs the food and goes and eats. Um, and he realizes that this is amazing, and he talks about how this is revolutionary, like Henry Ford, and he's completely changing everything. These two owners changed the process, and it's really cool watching them figure out how to make this and put this together to make the modern restaurant we basically have today, fast food restaurant. And they go through the process of how they created this design to be able to make food faster, to eliminate the things that weren't the big sellers and figure out how to make the things that were big sellers as fast as they possibly could. Something that In and Out definitely just took from. I had heard that In and Out was basically McDonald's when McDonald's started. In and Out is 100% McDonald's when McDonald's started. Um, and it goes through the story of how this guy sees McDonald's and wants to be a part of this organization. He sees a gold mine here. And the two owners, one of them, who's the genius who's come up with a lot of this kind of stuff, is very methodical. So moving forward fast in business and growing fast in business, he doesn't want to do. He doesn't want to change anything. And this salesman wants to franchise and grow McDonald's and have it expand. He's doing that, but his deal makes it so he doesn't make any kind of money. Um, so he needs to figure out how he can possibly make money. And to do that, he does some kind of taking over of the company as a whole, and it's very interesting to watch. That's kind of the base story of the show. It's worth watching how he takes over McDonald's and becomes the owner. I had no idea that the original owners weren't the ones that made it big. I had no clue. I had no clue it was some kind of sales guy. I didn't know anything about this. I think the acting is really good in it. I think the writing's really good in it. Um, and it's really fast paced. Like I never got bored. It just absorbed me throughout the entire thing. There's good business lessons to be in here. There's questions about how ruthless you really have to be in business. Is it worth being ruthless? Is it worth selling your soul? Was he selling his soul? Was it worth it to the owners because they got a big payday in the end, but they also lost their business? I don't really know. And it asks a lot of those different questions that I found interesting. It's a good movie. I liked it a lot.
It's good. Like I said, I've seen clips about 1,000 times on TikTok, specifically the scene uh, where he's eating the burger out on the park bench, and somebody's like, "Oh, where'd you get that?" You know,
Yeah,
I've seen that particular scene quite a few times, and every single time I've seen it, I'm like, "Oh, I should watch this movie."
you should. It's rated as 7.2 on IMDb, and I honestly think it deserves better than that. I think this is a high sevens, maybe even an 8 movie. It's good. And I've always liked Michael Keaton. I think he's just a good actor. And he does a great job in this. Nick Offerman, he is different in this one. Ron Swanson, obviously.
He's
Um,
different in everything but Parks and Rec.
yeah, he's a good actor.
Yeah,
He's a good actor, and
yeah.
I don't know. I liked him in this one. This like methodical nerd who likes the things the way that he likes the things, and he's got a brother who's just trying to help him create his dream, and it comes in this conflict. It's just well done. It's a good movie.
Well, that's good. I'm excited to check it out because I will watch that movie eventually. I don't know when, but it will. I will watch that one eventually.
It's
It's
on
just my
Netflix,
kind of
man.
movie. I think I'm gonna. I think I would just absolutely love that movie.
I think you would too. It's also my kind of movie, and I just enjoyed it, and I was surprised I hadn't heard more from it because I think this one is about as good as the one about Facebook, which I also think is a great movie.
Oh, get. I would give The Social Network like an 8.5, almost a 9 out of 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that one is so well done. It is so good.
Okay, I thought this one was fairly comparable, to be honest. You might not like it as much, but I found it fairly comparable.
If it's as comparable, then I like it. Just like it. I loved The Social Network. I was just watching a TikTok that somebody was giving it a 10 out of 10, and I was like, I'm not even mad at you saying that. Like it's so good.
It's a very good
Um,
movie.
it's absolutely my kind of movie.
Cool. Yeah, give it a watch, and then
Yeah.
we'll talk more about it because you'll like it. All right, man. What's your next one?
IMDb number 95. I'm finally getting back to these. Eternal
Nice.
Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. This movie absolutely does not belong to be on this list.
Interesting. You didn't like it?
No. Have
Why
you
didn't you
seen
like
it?
it? Yes, I have.
Okay. Jim Carrey sucked in it. He
Whoa.
sucked at it. He was not a good actor choice at all.
That is, I've never heard anyone's. That is a hot take, man. That's a hot
I
take.
don't care, it's true. I would have way rather the exact same script, but where he plays the goofy friend douchebag and Frodo plays the main character.
Okay. Okay. Hmm.
He
Um,
he just has a little bit too much goof to be playing this depressed person.
interesting. I
Like, he wasn't the kind of depressed that is like Robin Williams, and he wasn't the kind of, like, downer depressed that you traditionally think of, and he puts this stupid Grinch-like grin on his face all the time, and you go, "What are you doing, dude?" No director is telling you to do that. I can tell you that that is his choice as a character and
it
it
is
as
his
an
choice.
actor, and it is the wrong choice for this script. It is a very interesting idea. It makes you think like, okay, in this magical world, is there anybody I would choose to forget? Right? If I could just go through and just forget someone, would I do it? You know, I think that's a very interesting thought, right? And then there's the thought of morality, right? Is it moral to do that? Is it moral for um, Spider Man's girlfriend, whatever her name um, is it right for her at the end to tell people that they have chosen to forget people? Right? They didn't consent to that. They just kind of get told to it. Uh, Having it be where they find each other again anyway, even though they've both chosen to forget each other. What does that really mean? Um, in terms of like soulmates, and does that mean it's going to be different this time, or are we doomed to repeat the same mistakes as before? All that kind of stuff is very interesting.
I thought so too.
But Jim Carrey sucked at this role, and I would largely blame him. I don't believe this belongs on a top 100 list.
Interesting. I don't know if I would put it on a top 100 either, but I didn't. I actually, I liked him pretty well. Could there have been other? Is it a role where nobody could have played that role? Absolutely not. Other actors could have done it. Other actors could have done it better, but I didn't have a problem with the way he did it, if that makes
Oh,
sense.
I absolutely did. Yeah, it,
Interesting.
I absolutely like. It wasn't just like oh man, I wish another actor could have done it. They could have done better. I was actively like every step of the way. I was like, I can, I want someone else to be doing this because I would enjoy it more.
Have you seen The Truman Show?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you like him in that one?
yeah, he does a fine job.
Okay. Okay.
It's not my favorite movie. I think it's a little bit overrated. I think it's one that's propped up because of the concept of it
I think
and
so
the
too.
relatability of the whole of the thought of like, what is life? You know, what if this is just some TV show? What if this is just some simulation kind of stuff that you have when you're
Interesting.
just growing up? It's an interesting thought. What do you call it? Mind,
Concept, thought.
concept, thought
Uh,
process, brain thing, brainworm. That's what I'm looking for. It's an
uh,
interesting little brainworm to kind of sit in. Uh, but it's still pretty good. I think he does a fine job. I think Jim Carrey does a fine job in a lot of things. I think he does a good job in The Grinch. I think he does
so
a phenomenal job at Count Olaf in Series of Unfortunate Events.
so Truman Show. The reason I was bringing that up is it's also a little bit more of a serious show. So why was he okay in that one but not this one? Because to me, in both of them, each one could have had actors who would have been better in the roles, but he did a good enough job.
Again, because I think in this one he's playing this really sad, depressed, typical, monotone person
Okay, but he keeps grinning.
that it keeps grinning like the Grinch. He does
Okay,
his Grinch smile on it all the time.
and
Uh,
just takes
he
you out of the
doesn't do
movie.
this like awkward, like, oh, I'm gonna try and make a joke kind of a thing that he does in the Truman Show.
Hmm.
Um, but for whatever reason, in this movie, he decides to just kind of like not. do it like that and tries to play it differently. I don't know how else to say it, but it just doesn't land as like the it doesn't strike me. It doesn't make me believe that he's a depressed person.
Interesting. And it
He makes
takes you
it's
it doesn't have the verisimilitude. It doesn't have the doesn't suck you in. It doesn't make you
no,
embrace the story. It takes you out of the story.
no. Like he was clearly most at home in the worst part of the movie.
Yeah, that's fair.
When he was doing the flashbacks and like, "Oh, I'm
Yeah,
gonna stick you in another memory," and so now he's an eight-year-old boy, and then now he kinda portrays that really well.
yeah.
Yeah, great job, Jim Carrey. You know how to play an adult man as an eight-year-old boy. Congratulations. But the rest of the tone of this movie is not that.
It's not that. Okay, it didn't bug me as much as it obviously bugged you. Do you think
It
that
really
this
bothered me.
movie, if they had like nothing else changed, script is exactly the same, but you put in a different actor, do you think you love this movie, or is it still just kind of eh?
No. No, it's still more of just like a mind worm thought movie where you go, "Oh,
Okay,
would I really do that?" Right? Because that's what
yeah,
I did is after I watched this movie, I was like, "Is there anyone I would choose to forget?" I landed on yes.
interesting. I thought about that too, and I landed on no.
I would
Even like really,
absolutely
really
land on no.
bad ones.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
So, I would choose to forget the person that gave me this, a little white patch. Um,
Okay.
and to be fair, some of it is curiosity, like Magical Land. I would go to
Mhm.
you and I would say, "Hey, Conlon, there's this new procedure. They're gonna zap my brain through the night and they're gonna completely erase this person from my memory. I'm
Mhm.
curious if this white patch is gonna go away just because of forgetting this person.
I don't think that would.
I'm very curious."
I don't think that would happen.
I don't think it would either, but I'm curious towards it. My biggest motivation towards it, though, is like po- before her, I still had a lot more hope in life.
Hey, okay.
So if I forgot her, right before her, I was like, I feel like I've got one more in me.
Mhm.
Then she happened, and I was like, I don't know if I have one more left. If I forget her, maybe I go back to
I
maybe
have
I've
one
got
more
one
left.
more in. Yeah,
Ah,
that's my
interesting.
biggest motivation. But I am still curious of if the physical like parts start like my white patch. Would it go away?
Do you think that most people would choose to forget someone? Or
Yeah,
you think most people would?
absolutely. Yeah. I don't think that
Interesting.
most people would be happy with that decision. Like I think the premise of the movie where they say like most people would actually like to know that they forgot somebody. Most people would probably do it impulsively, right? Like the busiest time is February, it's Valentine's Day. Like
Yeah.
most people would be like, "Yes, I want to forget this person because they hurt me." And I think the premise of the lessons you learn from that is more important than the pain you went through.
Yeah.
100% agree.
But you think most people would be emotional? They'd be emotional. It would depend on what time somebody approached the situation. Because if you're in the middle of pain, there'd be a lot of people. If you could just go pay $500 or whatever, that they would probably do it.
Yeah. Like I said, most people who do it emotionally and most
Hmm.
people given the chance to know what they had done would probably regret the choice.
Do you think, like, let's say you meet a girl next week, you guys start dating, fantastic relationship, would your answer change at that point, or would it stay the same? Just assumption.
I I would still I still think I would choose that option.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Cuz like I said, it like what happened with me because of this person was such a long-term problem that will never ever forget. If I met a new person tomorrow, I still wish I wouldn't have the baggage from that.
That's fair enough, and there'd be a lot of people
and
that would
not
agree
as
with
like
you.
an emotional person, like, "Oh, I'm still hung up on her and I wish you'd come back into my life. I'm so sad." No, as like a, I should probably be taking some serious trauma therapy because of this person. I really should be working on this and moving on from this, but I'm not doing that. So if forgetting it and just having a life where I can continue on without having
Would be
that
better.
would be better, and would be better for my hypothetical person that I met tomorrow somehow.
Interesting. That's a good point. I am very interested for anybody watching. If you would forget somebody, I'm actually going to ask friends and family and my wife. Um, I don't think I would, but the more you talk about it, the more I can see a ton of people doing it, even
Like
later
I,
into their life.
right, like I said, I think 90% of the customer base is going to be doing it emotionally and illogically, and if they would have just given it time, would end up regretting that choice.
Yeah,
But I still think there's probably like 10% of people who would do it and choose to keep having forgotten, right? Like wish that they never found out that they had done it and didn't want to know, right? Like there's 10% of people who'd go through that procedure again to forget they found out, you know? Uh, and I don't think that that's necessarily like a immoral or unethical choice. Um,
but it's a choice that a lot of people
but
would
it's a
make.
choice that a lot of people would, I think a lot of people would make this choice.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of most people probably
Would regret it.
shouldn't, and probably would regret it if they had known that that's what it was. But I also feel like it's not it's not a bad thing, you know. Some people have been through some pretty serious crap. Like we would still have Kyle, what's his name, if we were able to just have soldiers forget.
Yeah,
No more PTSD.
that's another aspect of it that would be interesting, actually.
I think it's interesting to think about what forgetting really means, you know?
Yeah,
Because through the other storyline from Mary Jane's storyline, that's not her real character name, I just know her as Mary Jane. Um, she still has pieces from the memory, it just doesn't make sense to her.
yeah. I thought that was an interesting aspect of the movie too. And how do
And
you
we'll
piece
talk,
together your life and who you become when something is so pivotal and you remember parts of it but you don't remember the entire puzzle.
yeah, or it's like a dream,
Yeah,
right? I think we're going to talk more about that later, but uh, what does that really mean? You know, can you forget the person without really forgetting what they did? Right? Clearly, this person messed with my chemistry. My chemistry isn't going to change just because I forget this person, at least not overnight. What does that really mean? It's an interesting thought process. Like I said, I think a lot of people would do it. I think most people shouldn't do it. I think there are some situations you should do it. And my last point is Mary Jane choosing to tell everyone is an immoral decision
why do you think that?
because it's client information for one. It's a medical thing, and she's without consent telling people.
Okay, I agree, but I wondered what your thought was.
Yeah. Like it would be one thing if like I had this procedure and I knew that this place existed and 5 years later I go to them and I say, "Hey, I want my file, I want to know." That's a very different thing than getting some mail that's like, "Hey, buddy, you were here last year. I want you to know that this was a choice that you made as a fully grown, responsible adult when you gave consent. I'm taking that away from you now."
Yeah, it's pretty. pretty wicked. I agree.
I
I
wish
agree
that they would have
completely
addressed
with that
that a little
aspect.
bit, but that's
But they
okay.
didn't.
Nah,
Just worked for the plot that they had put
yeah.
together. Well, guys, that is this episode of On Screen Off Screen. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let us know what you would do, or if you've thought about this. If you haven't seen the movie, watch it and then let us know. We appreciate all you. See you guys.
Bye.